Good morning all. So in today's class we will look at a problem which is having curvilinear asymptote. So the problem is to sketch the graph of rational function and label the coordinates of the stationary and inflection points. Show the horizontal, vertical, oblique and curvilinear asymptotes. So whichever is there, and label their equations. Label points if any where the graph crosses an asymptote. So we will look at the different steps of sketching the graph. So the given function is x square minus 1 by x. So if you replace x by minus x, then you will get, okay, we won't get in the form f of x equal to f of minus x equal to minus of f of x or f of minus x equal to f of x. So the function is neither even nor odd. So therefore the graph is not symmetric. Now let us look at the intercepts. So when y is 0, you will get x square minus 1 by x equal to 0. So that gives x cube minus 1 equal to 0. So when you solve for the equation x cube minus 1 equal to 0, the only real root is x equal to 1. So 1, 0 is going to be the x-intercept. Now, as you know, when x is 0, the function is not defined. So when x approaches to 0, so 1 by 0, that gives you minus infinity. So the function is not defined at x equal to 0. So in this case, there is no y-intercept. So those are the intercepts of the function. So the only intercept is 1, 0. There is no y-intercept. Now we will look at whether there are vertical asymptotes or not. So here the denominator will be, so when you take the function, you can write it as x cube minus 1 by x. So when you take denominator equal to 0, so that gives x equal to 0. So here x equal to 0 is a vertical asymptote. And looking at the end behavior, so when you take limit x tends to infinity, f of x, so limit x tends to infinity, f of x will be, so here 1 by infinity will be 0, so highest degree term in the limit എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ infinity വരും. അതുപോലെ limit x tends to minus infinity, x square minus 1 by x is also equal to infinity. So as x approaches to plus or minus infinity, function approaches to infinity. So that is the end behavior. So none of the limits are finite. So limit finite allathukonde there is no horizontal asymptote. And now here if you look at f of x minus x square, f of x minus x square is equal to minus 1 by x. So as x tends to infinity, f of x minus x square will approach to 0. So we will have f of x minus x square tends to 0 as x tends to infinity, because f of x minus x square എന്ന് പറയുന്ന minus 1 by x ആണ്, and as x tends to infinity, minus 1 by x goes to 0. Again, as x tends to minus infinity, f of x minus x square എന്ന് പറയുന്ന minus 1 by x ആണ്. Limit എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ limit is again equal to 0. So this means the function f of x becomes closer to the function x square as x approaches to infinity or minus infinity. അതായത് ഇവിടെ y equal to x square എന്ന് പറയുന്ന കർവിലേക്ക് നമ്മുടെ ഫംഗ്ഷൻ അപ്രോച്ച് ചെയ്യും as x tends to infinity and x tends to minus infinity. So that means the curve y equal to x square, so it is no more linear, which is not a line. So y equal to x square is a curvilinear asymptote. So നമുക്ക് ഇതിന് vertical asymptotes curvilinear asymptotes ആണ് വരിക. There are no horizontal asymptotes and again there are no oblique asymptotes. കാരണം ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ഫംഗ്ഷൻ ലൈനിലേക്കൊന്നും അപ്രോച്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. ഫംഗ്ഷൻ y equal to x square എന്ന് പറയുന്ന കർവിലേക്കാണ് അപ്രോച്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So that gives us a curvilinear asymptote. And next, let us look into the derivatives. So the first derivative is, so you have x square minus 1 by x. So first derivative is 2x plus 1 by x square varum first derivative. And that will be equal to 2x cube plus 1 by x square. And again the second derivative is differentiating this once again. You will get 2 minus 2 by x cube varum. So that is 2 into x cube minus 1 by x cube. Now when you take f dash of x equal to 0, the only real root is x equal to minus 1 by 2 whole power 1 by 3 varum. And again f double dash of minus 1 by 2 power 1 by 3 will be 2 minus 2 by minus 1 by 2 varum. So which is positive. അപ്പോൾ പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ഈ കിട്ടിയ ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ പോയിന്റ് relative minimum ആയിരിക്കും, local minimum ആയിരിക്കും. So you will have a local minimum at x equal to minus 1 by 2 whole raised to minus 1 by 3. So computing the value of f at x, so this is going to be the minimum point. So minimum point എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് minus 0.794, that is this value minus 1 by 2 raised to minus 1 by 3, and the y value at that point is approximately 1.89. ഇനി അതുപോലെ second derivative is equal to 0 when x is equal to 1. So therefore 1 is an inflection point. Now when x is equal to 1, y value is 0. So the inflection coordinates of the inflection point is 1, 0. So that is an inflection point. So those are the derivatives and the extreme values and the inflection points. Now next we have to look at the change in sign of function. F of x ന്റെ sign change, f dash of x ന്റെ, f double dash of x ന്റെ sign change നോക്കാം. ഇനി f of x is 2x x square minus 1 by x. So at x equal to 0 it's not defined, and now when x is less than 0, x square minus 1 by x negative positive ആയിരിക്കും. So it is positive when x is less than 0. ഇവിടെ less than 0 വരുമ്പോൾ ഈ ടേം എപ്പോഴും പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയിരിക്കും. ഇനി x is negative, negative and negative പോസിറ്റീവ് ആവും. സോ മൊത്തം ടേമും പോസിറ്റീവ് ആവും. ഇനി when 0 is not defined, then നമുക്ക് x intercept 1 ആണ്. അപ്പം sign change നോക്കുമ്പോൾ you have to include the asymptotes and the intercepts. So the interval is divided with 0 and 1, and between 0 and 1 ന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ this value will be between 0 and 1 and minus 1 by 2. So 1 by 2, that will be greater than 1. So therefore this term is going to be negative. From 0 ക്കും 1 നും ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഇത് നെഗറ്റീവ് ആയിരിക്കും. And when x is greater than 1, this value is greater than 1, and this value will be less than 1. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് പോസിറ്റീവ് ആയിരിക്കും. So in 0 to 1 it is negative, and 1 to infinity it is positive. And for f double dash, again at 0 it's not defined. Upon 0 varum, then minimum point minus 1 by 2 power minus 1 by 3 and the intercept. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്രയും intervals sign change എങ്ങനെയാണ് നോക്കുക. So f dash is 2x cube plus 1 by x square, and when x is less than minus 1 by 2 whole power 1 by 3. So this term will be bigger than 1. So you will get a negative value, and minus 1 by 2 whole power 1 by 3 ക്കും 0 ക്കും ഇടയ്ക്ക് എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ this will be less than 1. So this is going to be positive, and when x is greater than between 0 and 1. X greater than 0 ആകുമ്പോൾ 0 to 1 positive ആയിരിക്കും, and 1 to infinity again the entire term will be positive. So that is the behavior of f dash. So negative, then positive, positive, positive. And next is the sign of f double dash. So f double dash has a value 2 minus 2 by x cube. So again the intervals will be minus infinity to 0, because at 0 the function is not defined. Then you have the inflection point 1. Now let us look at the sign of f double dash of x in the interval minus infinity to 0. So minus infinity to 0 എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ x cube value negative ആയിരിക്കും. So negative and negative, that will become positive. So the whole term will be positive. So it will be positive in the interval minus infinity to 0. And when you take the interval 0 to 1, 0 to 1 either positive ആയിരിക്കും. So this term 2 by x cube will be greater than 2. So this is going to be negative. So in the second interval 0 to 1 negative ആയിരിക്കും. ഇനി 1 to infinity എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ 2 by x cube will be less than 2. So therefore this is going to be positive. So that is the sign of f double dash of x. So we can make the conclusions. So the from the sign of f dash of x, so graph will be decreasing in the interval minus infinity to minus 0.794 and increasing in the interval minus 0.794 to 0, then 0 to 1 and 1 to infinity. അതുപോലെ concavity minus infinity to 0 വരെ concave up ആയിരിക്കും, then 0 to 1 it will be concave down, and again 1 to infinity the graph is going to be concave up. So now we will sketch the graph. So before you sketch the graph, so first of all sketch the intercepts, and there is a relative extremum point. Then the asymptotes are x equal to 0, and you have a curvilinear asymptote y equal to x square, so which is a parabola. So these points mark cheya, and so now we need to sketch the graph of function. ഇനി asymptotes mark ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ dashed curve ആയിട്ട് mark ചെയ്യുക, bold ആയിട്ട് mark ചെയ്യണമെന്നില്ല. So mark the original curve in bold. Okay, so the graph starts from minus infinity. So minus infinity to minus 0.794. The graph is decreasing, and it will have a relative minimum point here. And from minus 0.794 to 0, the graph is increasing, and it is concave up in minus infinity to 0, and again 0 to 1 vare increasing ആയിരിക്കും, concave down ആയിരിക്കും, and 1 to infinity again it is increasing and it is concave up. So at 1, 0 concavity is changing, and if you look at the intersection of y equal to x square and the given function, from x square equal to x square minus 1 by x edukumbo, so you are getting minus 1 by x equal to 0. So this happens only if x approaches to infinity. So therefore our curve is not having, so we are not getting any point of intersection in this case. So നമ്മുടെ അടുത്ത് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് point of intersection cross ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടോ എന്ന് check ചെയ്യാൻ. So here our curve is not going to cross the asymptote. So they will the curve will touch the asymptote only at infinity. So there is no point of crossing. So this is the required graph of the function. So the asymptotes are marked here. So y equal to x square is a curvilinear asymptote, and x equal to 0 is the asymptote. So that is the curve of your function.